Welcome to the Southampton Town Conservation Board meeting of January 14th, 2026. I'd invite all to rise for the salute to the flag. Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, sorry.
What is your pleasure on the minutes of December 3rd, 2025? Just want to check to make sure.
It, so I think I can vote.
Is this December 3rd?
Yeah, this is the
I
one.
have to abstain.
Okay.
You were there.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, you were there.
We can do it.
Right, but the 17th.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
On the 17th.
Aye.
Opposed? And what is your
I
pleasure?
abstain. I
Yes.
wasn't there.
And what is your pleasure on the
I'm
minutes
not involved
of
in this.
December 17th, 2025? December 17th, we need Ann, Tom, Leslie, and me.
Okay. I approve, motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstained, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Public hearings A 024077, Colin Heffron.
First question, you handing out anything new tonight?
What?
Are you
no,
handing
it's-
anything new tonight, or?
I've already submitted,
Already
yeah,
submitted.
you have everything that you need.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Shiano from InterScience Research Associates on behalf of the applicant. The last time that I appeared before this board regarding this application, the project had included a second-story addition and moving the house back and proposing a deck on the seaward side of the house. And there was talk between the board and myself regarding whether we should consider other alternatives. So I, including potentially reconstructing the house instead of just lifting it and putting a second story on and renovating, including potentially adding additional setbacks, including a number of other, adding additional buffering. So I went back to my client and we discussed what is the main thing that he wants to focus on. What is he looking to get out of this project? And he thought about it and he came back to me and we talked about it and we looked at the alternatives that Marty had originally recommended to us. And my client's main concern for his project, for his property, is making sure that what he has there is protected from a FEMA standpoint. So he doesn't, he likes the house that he has. So he really, there was an alternative that Marty had recommended that just included lifting the house that exists up. There's an existing patio here that had not received any approvals. We're going to be taking that up. We're proposing to remove that nonconformity. There are some walls and fences that are in the buffer. We're taking those out. We're expanding the buffer as Marty had recommended. The deck that goes around the house here that you see is essentially the same thing that Marty had recommended. We just, I had a note on here that the sketch that Marty had shown didn't include a bay window and a chimney, so we routed the deck around that. And the other thing is that we have to actually, because of the changes to New York State Building Code between the 2020 code and the 2025 code, there's an additional 18 inches of sea level rise that we have to account for on top of the freeboard. So we had to add some additional steps from, in order to get down to the ground after we lift it up to be compliant with the building code and the FEMA requirements. So this is essentially going back to an alternative that Marty had suggested. And with a few extra caveats just to make sure that we're working with the existing conditions and also what the building code requires. So this is lifting the existing house up, no new additions. We removed all of the proposed additions from the house except for some decking around in order to enjoy the outside of the property after the house has been lifted, and also to access the outside. And then an entry porch, which will be, so we've eliminated all interior additions, and this is just an entry porch into the outside from the front of the landward side of the house. There's still an IA system proposed, and the house will be renovated. And there's still a proposed garage, which is farther away. And there were some, there's an existing wall that can be removed now because of the fill that has to be proposed for the septic system. But essentially, this plan is what was recommended by Marty on his, back in May 6, 2025, with just some small edits to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Marty Sher, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. In confirmation of the applicant's testimony, the modified plans are consistent with an initial practicable alternative that I'd ask the applicant to consider. So I am supportive of the project changes, and I do recommend that the hearing be closed tonight, and that a conditional approval be granted at the next Conservation Board meeting. Thank you.
Any questions by the board?
Just wanted to understand the garage, is that new or is that reconstruction?
The applicant is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant is yet proposing a garage. It's compliant in terms of the required wetland construction setbacks. As such, I have no issue with the plans for the reconfigured drive and detached garage, as they are consistent with my initial recommendations.
Is the one septic system taking care of both structures?
The one step, we are still keeping the existing system for the other building. So this new septic system will only serve the proposed
Okay, the IA,
lifted house.
okay,
Yes,
thank you.
correct.
Thank you.
Just because we've had this happen before, please make sure that the applicant knows that getting an approval on this now, please don't segment the application and try to add things later that we wouldn't have said yes to now. That happens a lot. And they say, well, I'll just get this now and then I'll come back and ask for those additions after this is already approved. No bueno.
That was part of the discussion.
Good.
So I said, if this is what you want, then we should go, and that's what we, but note that this is, it'll be difficult to go back and ask for what, if you think that you want it, we should try and push for it, but they said, no, this is what we want to do, so.
I only say it because it's happened before.
I understand, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak in this application?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Advisory reports for the planning board, 9 Columbia.
Return, I see.
Good evening again, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This is a pending subdivision application for an old file map area in the hamlet of West Hampton. The track is located at 9 Columbia Avenue. There is an existing home, and the applicant is seeking planning board approval to subdivide the lot to provide an opportunity to build a second dwelling. There are two recommended advisory comments. The first indicates that based upon a November 26, 2025 Environment Division Field Assessment, the northerly part of the track is marked by a considerable amount of discarded debris whose removal should be required, followed by naturalized grade reclamation as much as is practicable prior to development. And second, clearance standards of 50% of the lot area should be adhered to at the proposed new northerly residential lot. And that's in order to preserve the land's watershed values as well as to protect native flora and fauna.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So Marty, if the planning board took this advice number 2 and decided to deviate from it, they have that authority, and we sit silently on the sidelines.
Yes, comment on the advisory. Thank you.
Corwith Red Barn LLC.
This is a pending subdivision that's in its final stage for a track at 140 Upper Seven Ponds Road in the hamlet of Watermill. There are two recommended advisory comments. The first states that as indicated by the February 7, 2024 Conservation Board Advisory Report, there are no town-regulated wetlands within 200 feet of the track. And second, in the interest of protecting prime farming soils, the Conservation Board supports the Plan Residential Development Conservation Opportunity Map as prepared by David Saskis with a latest revision date of November 18, 2025, as the plat appears to be consistent with the grant of development rights easement as recorded with the Suffolk County Clerk on December 9, 2013, under library D000-12755, page 654. That covenant had established 16.4 acres of ag reserve.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The administrative wetland permits are in your packets. Resolution of conditional approval, A 019131, the Patricia Lynn Prue Revocable Trust. The applicant requests postponement to the next meeting, January 28th. Is there a motion?
Motion. Good, so approved, so moved.
So moved, and now.
Second, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025007, 31 Pigeons 2 LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to 31 Pigeons 2 LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I
Hey.
just wanted to make a note that I actually didn't see this preliminary advisory report before we came in, and it would be useful to have been able to read it in advance.
A 025021, Mark Charbonneau and Donna Charbonneau. Applicant requests postponement to January 28, 2026.
So moved.
Go ahead.
Second.
Motion. Go ahead.
Move to postpone to January 28th, right?
26,
28.
January 28, 2026.
28,
Yeah, January 28th,
2026.
2026. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025033 Gregory S. Little. Any discussion?
Move to issue?
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Gregory S. Little for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025050 Neil A. Schlendorf trustee and Mary W. Schlendorf trustee. Any discussion?
Move to issue?
Second?
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Neil A. Schlendorf trustee and Mary W. Schlendorf trustee for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 02506020 CPC LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second?
Resolved that a conditional wetland approval granted to 20 CPC LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025064 Joseph Landy. Any discussion?
Move to issue?
Second?
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Joseph Landy for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preliminary review secret determination, A 024054 25 Dune Road LLC.
Morty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town.
Those never sent to us.
This application is seeking approval of both wetland permit and a coastal erosion hazard area permit in order to redevelop an oceanfront lot in the Hamlet East Quag that contains both town regulated wetlands and ocean beaches. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated December 19, 2025. This
Marty?
is,
Excuse me, I just want to interrupt. That's dated December 19th, but I never got a copy of it. I just checked my emails.
I'm sorry, that
Yeah.
date.
The first time I realized this was going to be on the agenda was when I saw it, and then I was even looking for the preliminary report. And that wasn't on as of maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock today. Unless that was just my emails for some reason. Yeah, I wasn't able to pull
Do you have a copy there now?
Yes, I do.
Do you want some time to read it?
Well, yeah, but I would have liked seeing it. I mean, that is a very, very sensitive area. In fact, I was on Dune Road, not far from there. If I'd known the address, I would have gone to it.
I'll tell you what, let's go through the report that Marty gives, and then at the conclusion, let's make a determination then if we should delay this so you can visit it, or if you're comfortable with the way things are going.
Okay.
So again, this is an application which received considerable pre-application review in order to ensure that the project is compliant with the
Is there a file on it?
Just take
hazard area law and coastal erosion hazard area adjacent regulations, as well as with chapter 325 of the town code.
Yeah, I got it.
As indicated by the advisory report, this is a fairly large project. Right now, the property is mostly in a natural state, with the exception of a small abandoned, uninhabited cottage and deck. In the interior of the site. That cottage is being removed. Sanitary system is being abandoned. Deck is also being demolished. The project. There is a corridor of high marsh along the south side of Dune Road. That's the reason why this project requires a town wetland permit. The project has been designed to ensure compliance with the required wetland construction setbacks for existing developed properties, consistent with the code requirements. 75-foot wide naturally vegetated buffer is being established. However, the project was not eligible for issuance of an administrative wetland permit, as the driveway access needs to cut through the corridor of high marsh along Dune Road. As indicated, the project is otherwise consistent with the wetland permit issuance standards. There are some final minor revisions that need to be made with regards to the proposed underground propane tanks. The applicant has indicated that they're amenable to all of the recommended wetland impact mitigation measures. As such, this is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. Accordingly, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
I'd like to go visit it.
Can we have a motion to adjourn this till the next meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so you'd like to have this application scheduled for review at the next meeting,
At the next
correct?
meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
A 024060 Carter Simpson and Sloan Simpson, they request postponement to January 28th, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? A 025035 Casalino and Arquendo Trust.
This, well, let me present the application. The board's procedure is that the applicant would only have an opportunity to present the application, have a discussion with the board if a public hearing is held. And if, I'll present my recommendations to the board, and in the event that you'd like to have a hearing scheduled. Oh, okay. All right, so this application relates to an existing residentially developed waterfront property on Tiana Bay in Hampton Bays. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated December 22nd, 2025. What prompted the initial submittal of this application is that the applicant had commenced extensive work on the driveway, which is located within 200 feet of wetlands. It was also observed that rock had been placed along the landward fringe of the tidal wetlands at the property, and that a wood tie retaining wall had been installed landward of the rock without the requisite wetland permits. So the application is before you to address the unauthorized activities that occurred at this site. With regards to the hardscape improvements inclusive of the driveway and others as described by the advisory report. I have no issues or significant concerns, and so the advisory report does recommend that the requisite wetland permit be issued for the hardscape. However, it requests that the on-site wetlands be covenanted as a wetland preservation area, and that a restored, naturally vegetated wetland, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, which would also be covenanted, be established at the site. The recommended reclamation calls for removal of the unauthorized rock wall and wood tie retaining wall because there is some vertical height separation between the level of the adjacent marsh and an extensive bare sand area landward of the rock and wood tie wall. The report recommends that the applicant come forward with a plan not only to remove the rock and wood tie wall, but to create a naturalized ascending grade to reclaim the area and to plant that area with native vegetation. Currently, there are 2 wood walkways that provide access to the marsh and the waterfront. While the applicant is indicating that they're amenable to removing the wood walks, I've also indicated, consistent with this board's policies and standards, that one of those access ways be reclaimed to natural vegetation, so that in the end there will only be one perpendicular pedestrian walk leading down to the marsh and the water. There is sufficient area at the property to both support and permit the planned hardscape improvements, as well as to reclaim a maximized buffer at the property. The advisory report also includes a sketch which I prepared showing the recommended wetland preservation area and restored buffer. I have also offered a native plant list for use as guidance in putting together a native revegetation plan. The applicant has indicated they are amenable to the recommended mitigative measures at this property. So at this time, we have sufficient information to make a determination on this application, and as such, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025037, Zach Goldberg and Amanda Goldberg.
This application relates to a small residentially developed lot on a private road known as Dogwood Avenue in Noyak. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated January 5, 2026. Along the southerly lot line, there is a small area of hardwood swamp with 2 massive swamp maples and understory vegetation that is regulated as freshwater wetlands pursuant to Chapter 325. As indicated by the January 5, 2026 advisory report, this is a property that has a history before this board. In authorizing prior improvements at the site, the board had conditioned the permit upon establishment of a covenanted buffer landward of the off-site wetlands. That covenant had been recorded. The applicant is looking for a wetlands permit at this time to proceed with additional improvements at the site, inclusive of a large residential addition, construction of a swimming pool, a terrace. The existing elevated deck would be extended. New front porch would be added. The applicant is also seeking to expand the drive to create a parking area, and there's a framed outdoor shower and above-ground propane tanks that need to be legalized. I did have, as indicated by the report, I did have an opportunity to meet with the landowner at the site, at which time I indicated that I would be recommending certain mitigation measures. I observed when I visited the property that notwithstanding that the covenanted buffer was previously in compliance and did receive a certificate of wetland compliance, part of that buffer has since been cleared and maintained as lawn, so I indicated that that area would need to be revegetated, which the applicant has agreed to. I indicated because of the shallow groundwater in the area, the applicant would have to come forward with a plan for a partial elevated pool. I discussed some of the design options with the landowner in terms of creating elevated deck rather than at-grade terrace, so the aesthetics of the elevated pool would work well with the property. I also indicated that any drive addition needs to be constructed of pervious pavers or gravel to allow for good rainwater infiltration and to abate stormwater runoff. I advised the landowner that the decks would have to be built with untreated wood, and I also indicated that he would need to seek a determination from the chief building inspector as to whether or not, notwithstanding a history of clearing, whether or not the property is subject to the site disturbance and clearance standards set forth in section 330-67 within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. In the event that he is not grandfathered and subject to those requirements, as part of this application, he agreed that he would come forward with a revegetation plan to ensure that a sufficient percent of the property is restored to a natural state in order to comply with the clearance standards. So the applicant indicated that he had no issue with the recommendations in terms of wetland impact mitigation. As such, we do have sufficient information to make a determination. Accordingly, recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second?
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025046 DB Ventures LLC.
This application relates to a waterside residentially developed lot that has frontage on the Little Conic Bay, as indicated by the January 13, 2026 preliminary advisory report. The applicant is seeking this board's approval in order to remove and replace the existing timber bulkhead with a vinyl bulkhead. The property is also characterized by three 20 linear feet long perpendicular timber groins that jut out from the bulkhead into the little Peconic Bay that are no longer functional. They were installed in the 1970s prior to the effective date of the Chapter 325. The applicant is seeking a wetlands permit from this board to reconstruct those timber groins in addition to replacing the bulkhead. In order for this board to make a determination regarding this application, I've advised the applicant that he needs to come forward with an analysis of potential environmental impacts and wetland effects related to any reconstruction of those timber groins. I also requested clarity and additional information with regards to whether or not the requisite New York State DEC Title Wetlands Permit and Department of State Consistency Review certification have been obtained in order to let him go forward with reconstruction of those groins. So while I have no issue with replacement of the bulkhead, because the bulkhead is positioned between other bulkheads, this is an application for which significant additional information is needed in order to render a decision. As such, recommending that a public hearing be held.
Marty, a question on that. These groins extend from the bulkhead seaward into the open water. Are they within our jurisdiction?
Yes, they are. We do have jurisdiction over the approximate state waters and any structures that are built within the state waters.
Okay.
Motion to schedule a public hearing for February 25th, 2026.
Resolve that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules a public hearing for February 25th, 2026. And the notice of public hearing will be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025048 Diane Moranis, the applicant requests postponement to January 28th, 2026.
Motion to postpone it January 28th, 2026.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025052 Matt McDavid and Eve McDavid.
This application relates to an existing elevated dwelling and elevated concrete retaining wall sanitary system whose construction was permitted as a replacement for a prior residence by this board some years ago. That permit had been conditioned upon essentially establishing the entirety of the remainder of the property as a covenanted wetland preservation area and naturally vegetated wetland, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, with the exception of needed utility routing and pedestrian and driveway access. As indicated by the January 7, 2026 preliminary advisory report on record, some minor changes were made to the residence without requisite wetland permits, which prompted the issuance of a notice of violation. They include a secondary first level deck that was constructed below a prior wetland permitted cantilevered second floor deck within the confines of the elevated sanitary system. There was a need to better safe access to the structure, so some changes were made with regards to adding an additional stairway and to replacing the failing front porch entry to the dwelling. The applicant had also installed a generator on a FEMA-compliant elevated platform on the north side of the home. And there was also a small frame outdoor shower that was built immediately adjacent to the residence. Notwithstanding that, the house sits in the midst of tidal wetlands and adjacent naturally vegetated areas. I don't think that the utility and access improvements, as well as the deck construction within confines of prior wetland permitted elevated sanitary system, together with the very small framed outdoor shower at the house entry, pose any new significant adverse wetland impacts. As such, recommending that the improvements at this site be legalized, conditioned upon continued protection of the encumbered portions of the property, and I am recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second?
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025063 Brushy Neck Lane LLC.
This application relates to a large residence in the hamlet of West Hampton. There is a preliminary advisory report dated January 13, 2026. As indicated by the advisory report, we had recently received 2 applications for this property. Initially, an administrative wetland permit application that needed to be filed in order to legalize some minor changes that were made to the prior Conservation Board permitted residential improvements at compliant wetland construction setbacks. That permit was issued, conditioned upon restoration of the covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, which the board had required to be extended right up to the water side of the residence. The applicant agreed to remove the existing lawn and to fully restore that area, and is in the midst of preparing the necessary restoration and revegetation plan. The second application, which is before the board tonight, is seeking this board's approval for additional residential accessory improvements and hardscape at the property. As indicated by the detailed advisory report, all of the additional improvements are meet or exceed the required wetland construction setbacks. And again, the applicant has agreed to come forward with the requisite buffer restoration plan to reclaim the required 75-foot buffer at this site. So I have no issue with the additional improvements that are being planned, so long as the applicant does come forward with the requisite buffer restoration plan. So this is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Before we move on that, and we just wanted to ask a question. I talked to Marty briefly
Yes.
about this outside. Is it something we see regularly, that somebody comes forth basically with two permit applications at the same time, administrative for a chunk of the work and board approval for another chunk?
No, the recent history of this is when the applicant had initially discussed with my office some of the planned additional improvements. We went out and inspected the property to provide pre-application feedback. We reviewed the updated as-built survey against prior Conservation Board records and advised the applicant that there were minor changes that were made to the prior permitted improvements at the site that had to be legalized or otherwise rectified. And I indicated that I wanted those outstanding issues addressed and resolved through issuance of an administrative wetland permit, which you were eligible for prior to the landowner going forward with an application for additional improvements at this site. So it's not commonplace that two separate applications are submitted almost simultaneously for the same property, but I was hesitant about reviewing a new application before this board for additional work at the property until the applicant agreed to the needed mitigation and restoration recommendations at the site.
I hear you, and it sounds like it makes enormous sense. It's just sometimes you're really bifurcating a project and sort of treating it by two different decision-making bodies, and I just think as a general rule, we should avoid that.
So the applicant had an interest in resolving any outstanding issues at the property as well prior to making an application to this board. So, I just thought it made sense for the applicant to resolve the outstanding issues first by filing an administrative wetland permit application before they came to this board. And it was the interest of part of the landowner to proceed in that fashion as well.
And that was issued in November, right? Around Thanksgiving this year?
I'm sorry?
That was it. The administrative permit came in November, I think, late November. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to think about the process. I think it's worth, just flagging as something we should think about, because having two different processes at the same time can lead to problems. I don't think it did in this case. I'm happy to go with the recommendation.
It's rare, though,
There was actually
too often.
a case not too long ago where a Conservation Board wetland permit application had been made to this board, and it was found that there was very extensive restoration that needed to be done, and it was the preference of the board to have them in the interim file for an administrative wetland permit, so I could require and approve a suitable restoration plan, and then also require that they complete the restoration prior to the board entertaining additional work. So it's not commonplace, but it has occurred before.
Okay, thank you, Marty.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we're going to waive the public hearing. Motion to waive the public hearing.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed?
Next one, I want to hear you.
Resolution to schedule public hearing. A 025049, Sue Graham Ongaro Mingus Revocable Trust.
A motion to reschedule the public hearing to February 11, 2026.
This is to schedule public
Yeah,
hearing.
schedule, it's not
sorry.
reschedule.
It does say rescheduled, though, like you see where you read it.
Thank you.
We had
Thank you,
initially,
Says schedule here.
we had,
I don't want Leslie jumping along.
we had initially waived the hearing requirement because based on the communications I received from the applicant, it appeared that they were amenable to the recommended mitigative measures. Then they communicated that, no, they had some concerns and wanted to go to a hearing. So that's why this resolution is before you.
So there is that typo there. You see that? Okay. So we have a motion to schedule a public hearing. Is there a second? Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules the public hearing for February 11th, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution issue modification, CB 20009, Sonia Arsenkun and Rainier Arsenkun.
I was waiting to hear that. I was waiting to hear how you'd say that. Pretty good there.
It's called a glide, I think.
This application relates to residentially developed property with frontage on the Great Peconic Bay. It's characterized by a bluff and beach, as indicated by the resolution. Some years ago, this board had issued a permit to allow for construction of a swimming pool, to allow for upgrading the sanitary system to an IAOWTS, to install various hardscape, to make changes to the entry to the dwelling as well as the driveway area. That permit had been conditioned upon establishment of a restored covenanted wetland preservation area and naturally vegetated wetland buffer. The applicant has since decided to make some changes in the project design that are yet consistent with the required setbacks and parameters of the initial Conservation Board permit. They have recorded the requisite covenant and are going forward with the needed restoration at the site. So these changes as described by the resolution are not going to result in any new significant adverse impacts to wetlands. So they do qualify for granting of a modified wetlands permit. So the resolution before you is to approve the requested modifications to the permit so the applicant can proceed consistent with the project design changes.
Move to issue the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Rainier Arsenkun and Sonia Arsenkun for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? CB 24043, Rondagali LLC.
This application relates to a project site wherein the board had previously issued a wetlands permit for residential development within the private community of Cold Spring Point in Tuckahoe. This is an interior lot that contains considerable tidal wetlands. The prior permit this board had issued was conditioned upon establishment and restoration of a naturally vegetated buffer that was maximized at the site. The property has since changed ownership, and the new owner is looking to reconfigure the planned residential improvements within the same site disturbance footprint that this board had previously established and permitted. and they are amenable to all of the prior required wetland mitigation measures, including protection of the on-site wetlands and preservation and restoration of the naturally vegetated buffer. So there is nothing about this project that would result in any new significant adverse wetland impacts, so it is eligible for a modification. So there is a resolution before you to approve the needed modifications to the existing wetland permit to let the new landowner go forward with the design changes consistent with the parameters previously set by this board.
Motion issue to modification.
Resolve that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Rhonda Gale LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution to issue modified conditional approval, A 021009-451 MPL LLC.
This application relates to a property at 51 Milford Lane in the Hamilton Watermill that contains and abuts considerable freshwater wetlands as well as town preserved land. This is the second request for modification of the conditional approval as indicated by the resolution. Initially, this board had issued a permit that called for retention and elevation of the existing one-story ranch and building of a second floor addition within the same footprint, as well as inclusion of a pool and patio area with the requirement that the conventional sanitary system be upgraded to an IAWTS. The applicant had previously come back with an application that sought a modification of the conditional approval to demolish and reconstruct the existing house rather than retain the one-story ranch portion of the dwelling. The board granted the modification because the new house would be built within the same footprint as the existing ranch, and the property is very constrained, so there was little or no ability to shift the new house further landward. This second modification relates to some minor remedial measures and utility improvements at the site. The applicant is seeking a modified conditional approval to allow for a root barrier around the immediate periphery of the elevated IA or WTS. The reason being is that the permit was subject to restoration of a naturally vegetated buffer, pretty much right up to that IA, so they want to make sure that the natural vegetation does, that its roots don't interfere with the functioning of the IA. The applicant is now seeking to install underground propane tank, and because that work would be done within a portion of the previously required covenanted buffer, the plan calls for reconfiguring the buffer in a manner that would provide equal amount of buffer elsewhere on the property in a manner that's beneficial in terms of enhancing protection for the wetlands. So there is nothing about the additional work the landowner is seeking approval for that would result in significant adverse wetland impacts. As such, there is a resolution before you to modify the conditional approval for the second time so that we can finally issue a wetlands permit, and so that the applicant can go forward with the redevelopment.
Motion to issue a modified conditional approval.
Second?
Resolved that a modified conditional approval be granted to 51 MPL LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? A 024015, Stephen Ryder and Dawn F. Ryder.
This is an application where the board had previously issued a wetland permit in order to allow for certain hardscape at the property. That permit was conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted buffer, wherein the applicant was required to remove an existing, essentially non-functional boat lift, to also remove existing light poles, as they pose risk of interference with wildlife use and behavior of the area. As is customary when the board requires buffers, the board had also conditioned their original approval upon removal of existing chain link fences running along the lot lines down to the bulkheaded waterfront, so that there is no interference with animal movement along the bulkhead. Notwithstanding that the applicant initially agreed to those measures, they decided to go to the Board of Trustees to see if they could get relief from the required removals of the fence, lighting, and boat lift. And indeed, the Board of Trustees decided to take jurisdiction over those structures because of their close proximity to the bulkhead. And counter to this board's approval, the board issued Board of Trustees issued a permit to allow those features to remain within the required buffer zone. So as Chapter 325 indicates, that where a trustee's permit is required or issued, they don't need to get authorization from this board. So the consequence of their subsequent application to the trustees after this board issued an approval is that they got relief from some of the required remediation within the buffer. They're still revegetating the buffer consistent with this board's requirements, and they need to install supplemental native plants so that we have real good natural vegetative coverage, and the applicant has agreed to do that. He also noticed that there was a very minor error in the surveyed setback of some of the hardscapes. That got corrected as well. So this is a application to modify the conditional approval so as to no longer require that the outdoor lighting, fencing, and boat lift be removed from the required covenant above.
Were those items that we requested to be removed on the previous resolution mitigation for activities that we're approving today?
Were they mitigation?
Were they mitigation for activities that we are approving today?
No, the reason the application has been made is because our permit says that those features have to be removed from the buffer, and so they want the permit modified so that Conservation Board approval no longer requires that those features be removed. Reason being that we now have a trustee's permit that allows those features to remain.
That was a
And-
resolution that was already adopted, right? We already adopted that resolution
Yes.
prior to the
Yes.
trustees
Yes.
approving.
You know, typically, we not only prohibit fences within buffers, so there's no interference with animal movement, we also want to ensure the public's continued right to pass and repass. How the trustees address that is by requiring that they install gates in the perpendicular fence lines, which, my observation is when the trustees do that, that oftentimes those gates are locked by the landowner, which is not permitted, thereby yet interfering with the public's right to access. But because those activities, because the board, I should mention the Board of Trustees also issued a permit to replace the bulkhead, and because those features are within the 10 feet landward of mean high water, the trustees decided to take jurisdiction and to overrule this board,
Which they can do.
which they could do.
And I assume you have a copy of the trustee.
Yes, I have all that on record. Yes, I did check all that, yes. Read through the permit thoroughly.
Did we
And the
get
trustees
notice of it
never-
before the trustees? If there is something that is, both been before this board and before the trustees, is there any kind of courtesy notice that, so that we could weigh in?
Well, my preference, of course, would have been that the trustees, when they saw that this board had required that a covenant of buffer be established, that my preference would have been for them to send an advisory referral to this board, to get feedback from this board regarding the changes that were sought by the applicant, but they didn't do that. But there's a new board in town, so perhaps those policies will change.
Thank you.
Could, is it possible to send them a little note saying that we would appreciate?
They've already issued the permit, so no
Not
matter
on this
what.
application, but maybe on future applications.
Well, I am meeting with one of the trustees next week to discuss
Courtesies?
developing a much closer working relationship between the trustees, the new Board of Trustees and this board. So, sounds promising, and I will be optimistic at this point.
Was the permit issued by the previous board or this board?
Previous.
Now, the prior board,
Okay.
the prior board.
In this particular case, it's unfortunate because the permit issued by the trustees last year appears to be inconsistent with the standards set forth in Chapter 325. And this may be water under the dam, under the bridge already. But I don't know if they are fully aware of what they did
Maybe not.
and the impacts.
Well, I think the board was fully aware of the impacts. They were aware that we had required a covenant to buffer. It was shown right on the survey that was provided to the trustee. And, you know, I would hope that they would have reviewed the Conservation Board records as well. They never contacted me to get my feedback or get clarity in terms of the board's recommended mitigation. They just went forward with it. Nor did the landowner ever advise me that he was doing that, after he indicated he was fully amenable to removing those features from the board.
Just, what was the timing, Marty? When did we issue our permit and when did the landowner, homeowner then go back to the trustees?
We issued our permit June of 2024. Was in I believe in last year that they went to the trustees.
Permit was issued December 4, 2024.
So 6 months after ours.
Right. Right. So if we don't approve this tonight, what does that mean?
Good question.
Well,
Nothing.
well, I think the applicant could opt to challenge the board's decision.
Well, we could say we
Could
want to talk about it
request
first.
at least some communication as to why the board is disapproving the resolution, and then rightly claim that the trustees' permit overrules the conditions placed by this board.
I was just thinking maybe
So
not deny, but not act.
it's,
I was
until
going
there's
to make
some
a motion to
conversation.
adjourn this for 2 weeks, so we have time to discuss it.
I don't think that anything would be accomplished, because it would be different if there was a pending application before the trustees, but they've already issued the permit. And
Got it.
this board has no authority, notwithstanding any concerns that you have.
Right.
This board has no authority to require that the trustees rescind or modify
Right,
their
right.
permit.
325, yeah.
So,
Maybe it would create an opportunity for some conversation, and I think,
Well, we
you know,
have
we
a
have this
new-
in front of us.
You got to remember, we have a new board of trustees.
I know, and it's a
Brand
great,
new.
it's a great reset moment, as you were
Yeah.
saying before, but I think by adjourning, as Tom suggested, doesn't mean that we're, you know, trying to get them to rescind a permit. It might mean that it is a moment for us to take an opportunity to actually have a conversation with them about how we work together moving forward.
Well, it may be a moment, but it appears to be within the landowner's right to go forward with the project. He's almost requesting the modification as a courtesy to this board, because he has a permit in hand from the trustees that allows him to keep features that are counter to the intent of our book. So I hear your concerns, but I don't see that much would be accomplished by not acting on this modification application. I think we need to live and learn, and now that we have a new board of trustees in town, we need to do everything we can to develop a much better working relationship with them to try and prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future.
Yeah, we don't want to
Are there
antagonize them.
time restraints on this application that it must be acted on tonight?
Well, their approval doesn't expire until June 26, 2027, but the applicant landowner is chomping at the bit to get his, get his permit and to close out the permit get the work done and close it out very soon thereafter. Because the permit that we had issued was primarily to legalize work that had been done at the property without requisite wetland permits. And we had required the buffer to mitigate the wetland impacts of the work that was being legalized. Setting aside what happened at the level of the Board of Trustees, the project, when it came before this board, was otherwise consistent with the wetland protection standards that this board applies to similar properties. So there was no way, because the applicant had agreed early on that he would remove those features, I had no reason to know or think that he might try and go to the Board of Trustees and get a decision that provided relief from the decision of this board.
But our issue is really not.
So the pool, the main reason the application was filed was to legalize an existing swimming pool, patio, and steps, and a shed. So all that, all the other improvements were minor. So that work is already done. He's looking to get a permit and then wants to very soon. He's going to have to do additional revegetation. And then he's going to look to close out his Conservation Board permit so that he can close out his wetland permit, so.
Our issue is not really with the applicant, or the issue is not really with the applicant, the issue is with the Board of Trustees. So,
Yeah, you know,
Trustees wouldn't have acted if the applicant didn't apply for it.
The applicant came before us to do something that.
And he agreed to do what we
Contrary to what he agreed to do
wanted
before.
and went to the
well, was
trustees to
it,
rescind.
did the applicant have an agent representing? No?
Oh, the applicant figured this out by themselves.
I'm sorry.
The applicant figured to go to the trustees all by himself.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if he had counsel that advised him to go that route. I have no idea. He never, I've communicated with this applicant many times since he made the initial application to this board. Never once did he raise that he was going to try and
just
find a
poking a
way
bear,
to keep
or
that
is it
fencing lighted
legitimate?
and boat lift.
I do think it'd be wise to adjourn this for 2 weeks. I don't really understand all the details and the timing of what happened. I'm looking at chapter 325, and it does bring up some questions that I don't think we have time tonight to delve into. And that's why I asked the question, if there's no harm in delaying it for 2 weeks, think that would give us time to clear up some questions, and then we can issue the permit in 2 weeks. If more questions are raised, then we can address that next time too.
But in order for the applicant to come forward and make a presentation or speak to the board, we would need to schedule a hearing. I'm not, aside from providing a copy of that trustee's permit to you, there's little else that I can offer in terms of new information.
Yeah, I don't think that having the applicant present things to us is the direction that we were thinking
You
about.
want to, you want some time to mull this over before taking an action on the resolution. I understand that, and we can postpone it.
That's
to the
essentially what I'm hearing
next-
that
Okay,
we
all right.
we could do.
We'll put it on for January 28th again,
Yes.
okay? And I will communicate to the applicant. It's my impression that you had grave concerns about what occurred here. And
Sends a good message, both to the applicant and to the board.
But there was some very, yes, and there's some very concrete reasons why, I remember the application, why you recommended that those lights come out.
yes. And I had discussed that all with the applicant from the beginning, and he had agreed. He supported my recommendations.
And by us making that decision tonight, we're closing the door on any opportunity to allow for the earlier resolution to occur by taking them out.
So
Now-
what Karina can do in the interim is email a copy of the trustee's permit to board members. So you have an opportunity to look at that. And then contact me if you want further information from the applicant prior to our next meeting, and I'll be happy to get that information for you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Motion to adjourn this for 2 weeks.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you all. And I want to say too, welcome, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.